My name is Mark Borkowski. I'm a publicist. I started my career sort of here, I guess, back in 1980. I think trams had stopped working, and Stratford's a very different place. I came from Stroud in Gloucestershire, and to come into the heart of the East End, I mean, it's been quite a change since the Olympics, but it was the poorest borough in the country, and it had an amazing legacy. And Philip saw something in me and gave me a break. I was working my first job. I'd screwed up my university degree, and I'd gone to a local theatre as a journalist, and then ended up being in the press department of a touring theatre. And then, London is where you had to come, I guess, to further your career. And I had 5 amazing years here with some extraordinary productions. I think when I arrived, Lindsay Anderson's Hamlet was going on with Frank Grimes. And then it was steaming, Nell Dunn's Steaming, where on that very stage there was a plunge pool. It was and relics from the Stepney slipper baths, which was where working class women sort of gathered. And it was, I guess, a true feminist piece. Went on to the West End. I went with it to do some publicity for it in the West End. That's my first Wednesday show. But anyway, I stayed here and worked with some extraordinary people. You know, Michael Abensets, Trevor Rohn, Tony Marchant, Adrian Shergold, the Black Theatre Cooperative, Charlie Hanson, Victor Mayer Evans, Chris Tummings, whole smorgasbord of people, stars from it was sort of crossover from the Joan Littlewood days, so there were still workshop people. Lionel Bart used to turn up for first nights, and Wayne Sleep. It was a real mix, and Philip sort of recognised that it was the streets here that had to resonate with work on this theatre. This wasn't a posh Hampstead, it wasn't the National Theatre. And of course, when I joined, the Arts Council were looking to cut this place, euthanise it, and we had to keep it alive, which he did. And also he called out the bureaucracy that didn't quite have any respect for this theatre because of its audience, because theatre was middle class. It was predominantly run by males, white, middle class, public school boys. And Philip took the fight. And then The Glory of the Garden came in 1984, which was the big cuts, the Thatcherite cuts into the arts. And Philip, with a bit of help from me, led the charge in terms of vocalising as much as possible. I stayed here, did some freelance work here for a while, and then always popped back. I've done a few productions that went, like The Big Life. I did the PR for it when it went to the West End. But I wouldn't be, we weren't allowed in the in the tribute to actually say things like he changed my life, but he did change my life, and I think it reflected in the room in terms of what everybody else felt in the room towards him. And this was a family, and just walking through that bar and seeing so many people who've all, got a bit thicker and a bit less hair and a little older and a little bit real wrinkly. But it's amazing to see that generation of people who worked with him, here to lead a phenomenal tribute, which it was. And I wish it was filmed, actually. I can't believe it wasn't filmed, I think, anyway. But in this world, you need to capture anything. Maybe for us in the room, it was a moment in time. And I think a very special tribute. And look, it's still Sunday. I expect this to go on until the early hours of Monday morning. But we managed to surpass that, and we're all standing. For me, it was Thick as Thieves, which is a Tony Marchant's play. And Tony was same age as me. He came, he'd come from Wapping, the streets of Wapping. And it was about a group of lads. And there was a piece of jam music that started up. And I remember the line, which was... I love when the sun shines because we can all get to see everybody's wallpaper in their houses. They fling out their doors for the council blocks. And I'd come from a leafy part of Gloucestershire, and that really struck me as an amazing thought, that sunshine meant looking at people's wallpaper, not thinking about the birds, not thinking about the trees, not thinking about the sprouting flowers. It was actually that was significant. I think, audience reaction always got me. When you did some of the shows, and when we got a local audience, they screamed and shouted. They didn't behave. And I think one of the funniest things was I used to look after the press, and it was I think it was a Brian Prothero Cregan Panto. And B.A. Young, who was then the theatre critic for the FT, turned up. And it was a matinee performance, so I took him into the bar, had a drink. And there was a guy called Wally the Meat. And he'd always accost the critics. And the critics always sort of say things like, sort of a bit of an East End idiot. And he would say, he would always have some sort of big debate about the performance. Anyway, this guy came up to... Well, he's called Wally the Meat because he was always selling knocked off meat. And he came up and he said, "Do you want to buy some bacon?" Well, this very pompous guy said, "I beg your pardon." He said, "Do you want to buy some bacon?" There was always bacon on the. He said, "No, I'm B.A. Young. I'm the Financial Times theatre critic." And without dropping a hint, he pulled up and said, "Oh, you want to watch then?" So I love the audience. I love the life of this theatre as much as I love what was going on the stage. And we were a great family. And, we cared about what we put on. And I used to get incredibly frustrated. I could see the blood, sweat and tears going into a show, and critics could actually scythe it down. So I always made sure there was loads of advanced publicity. And worked with some amazing people who've gone on to magnificent things. And was walking up the stairs and seeing all the shows I publicised and seeing how they started. I couldn't even, there was Vince Fox's Breakneck about Ruth Ellis. There was, as I said, Only Wade Riley about Oh Mother Riley with Maureen Lipton and Brian Murphy. There was Stiff Options there with Michael Elphick, who was like a huge name at the time. I mean, it was just chucking out the work, but at the same time also developing work. So a rare place that needs that tradition, needs to be protected, needs to sort of carry on that spirit. And I think it will. I mean, the seeds of what Philip spread, like sycamores, swirling down, is everywhere. All you have to say is, if you want to see a unique theatre with an extraordinary history. I was here for the 100th. I can't believe it's 140 years. But people talk about theatre ghosts. And I say to people, if you want to see a real life theatre ghost, go into the theatre, because the spirits in this place are beyond what you see in a West End theatre, beyond what you see in big venues like Royal Albert Hall, the same leverage of tradition. And this has a unique audience that makes up, posh people, poor people, all sorts come in here and give it a unique atmosphere that is not replicated, like the Royal Court or Hampstead or all the fringe theatres that had a similar scale. This theatre is unique. And then if people don't walk into this and don't experience it, there's something missing in their life.